Hello, this is QTV News. I am Umudu Gajaga and welcome. Thank you for joining us. First, here are the main news headlines. As preparations intensify ahead of a major climate change conference later this year, Regional Ambassador for West Africa recently visited the Gambia to engage government's commitment on the country's nationally determined contributions. The Chief of Defense Staff of the Gambia Armed Forces on Monday resumed his tour of military installations and meetings with army troops and community leaders and local government officials. A splendid display of Gambia's rich cultural diversity has been used to raise awareness of and launch an environmental challenge cleanup. Today is International Day of the Tropics, a UN day commemorated with the theme, The Digital Divide in the Tropics. Those were the main news headlines, and now the news in detail. Welcome and thank you if you're just joining us. This is QTV News. Janet Rogan, the COP26 Regional Ambassador for West Africa, recently visited the Gambia to engage government's commitments on the nationally determined contributions and build momentum ahead of the COP26 summit. Jennifer Sonko has the rest of that story.
The visit by the COP26 Regional Ambassador for West Africa is an opportunity for her to learn about the activities of environmental activists in the Gambia and more about Gambia's ambitious nationally determined contributions, NDCs. First, we tried to find out if the COP26 will take place in October from 31st to 12th November in Glasgow, Scotland, having been postponed last year due to the pandemic.
Are really, as the UK government, determined to do everything we can to make sure that the conference can take place in person. In a way that is COVID secure with the right kind of arrangements for everybody. COVID secure for the delegations and COVID secure for the population surrounding, because that's very important too.
At the press conference, the Environment Minister Lamin Bidiba explained the Gambia's updated NDC, which embodies efforts by each country to reduce national emissions and adapt to the impacts of climate change. The minister says Gambia has increased its ambition from 45% to 49%.
Our INDC was one of the two most Paris compliant. Gambia and Morocco are the two countries that have ambitions that can maintain the global temperature at 1.5 degrees Celsius.
Countries have a responsibility to pursue domestic mitigation measures to achieve the objectives of their NDCs.
Firstly, congratulations to Gambia for doing that work and for putting in what is a very ambitious NDC. We would like all countries to put in ambitious NDCs and then follow up with the implementation. And there are ways to help with implementation, for example, through the NDC partnership, which is also providing technical assistance to think about how do you implement a big ambitious plan.
COP provides an opportunity to support national governments in meeting their NDCs, demonstrate industry leadership and engage with key stakeholders, provide opportunities to engage with the COP agenda and participate in related events. Reporting for QTV News, I am Jennifer Sonko.
The Chief of Defense Staff of the Gambia Armed Forces, Lieutenant General Yankuba Drame, on Monday resumed his tour of military installations and meetings with army troops and leaders across the country. The second phase of the tour began in Kanilai, where the army chief met with troops and the former president's residence before heading to the Senegalese economic camp. Babukar Si is with the tour delegation and he now reports.
In a colorful welcoming ceremony at the entrance of the village, the soldiers were happy to receive their boss, who was accompanied by the senior military officers, to ex-President Jammeh's village. In welcoming the delegation, the Alcalo, Ibu Jammeh, the Imam and other village elders spoke highly of the men and women posted in the village while thanking the CDS for the good job he has done since assuming office. The army chief then proceeded to meet the troops posted in the village for a tete-a-tete.
My advice to each and every one of you is this. Personally, I will not be involved in politics. Why? It runs contrary to the ethics of my profession. If I should not be involved in politics, serving members of the armed forces should not equally be involved in politics. Within the political circle, or even what obtains today on the social media, one observes with great concern the tense tribal situation in this country. Individuals, institutions, or organizations, they are bent on what? Trying to incite violence, using tribal sentiments as a tool to incite violence in this country. As a serving member of the armed forces, we cannot afford to be divided on tribal grounds.
CDS Yakuba Dramé then turned to the Senegalese contingent posted in Kanilai for a brief meeting where he met with the contingent camp commander. The last point of call was the Sibanor Army Post, where the Chief of Defense Staff conducted similar briefings to the men and women posted there. Babu Karsi, QTV News.
Now, in a splendid and colorful spectacle, the Global Youth Parliament, the Gambia, on Sunday launched the first ever Environmental Heroes Challenge between three biggest regions to compete in addressing growing environmental issues and the ecosystem. Ajibintu Drame has more.
The competition is staged between the West Coast region called the Giant Elephants, Carnifin Municipal Council known as the Great Lions, and Banjul City Chapter called the Fearless Tigers. The parade was a splendid showcase of the country's colorful, rich cultural diversity by members of the Global Youth Parliament, spearheading the Environmental Heroes Challenge. The Environmental Heroes Challenge aims to keep the environment clean, display culture and raise awareness of climate change, and educate us about the importance of caring for the environment. These regions will be doing a face-to-face challenge to address the undeniable environmental problems facing us all, ranging from sanitation to climate change, anti-littering and other issues that pose as a threat to the ecosystem. Over the years, the world has experienced severe climate changes, which have a serious impact on the world's water system, causing flooding, severe droughts, harsh weather conditions such as heat waves, hurricanes, amongst others. In the Gambia, it seems that the management of the country's glorious forests and ecosystem have been lost, leading to the disappearance of special animal and plant species. In addressing this, the Environmental Heroes Challenges will be given tasks to keep their regions, also called the red zones, sparkling clean by sensitizing the public on no to waste dumping or littering and keeping their environs clean. The Global Youth Parliament GYP seeks to promote the ideas of young people in playing their part in the socio-economic development of the nation. At the end of the challenge, a cash prize of $100,000 will be given to the winning region. Unfortunately, the event held at the Westfield Youth Monument was disrupted by the heavy rains and put an end to what would have been the first face-to-face. In spite of this, the ideas behind the project are a good sign of both our culture and our environment. Ajibintu Drame, QTV News.
Culture mixed with environment. Very beautiful there. We will now take a short commercial break, but when we return, there is more local news stories.
The best product in town is back. QCell's MiFi router. Get the best MiFi in the country for just $2,800 and connect up to 15 users with 4G internet speeds and a long-lasting battery life. So rush now to any of our customer care locations and get the best for less while stocks last. For more info, call our customer care on 111. QCell, Senior Boss, the Gambia's quality network. We innovate, others follow.
Welcome back, and thank you if you're just joining us. This is QTV News. Every year, June the 29th is observed as the International Day of the Tropics. It is a UN initiative to promote tropical regions on the Earth, raise awareness about the conservation strategies, and celebrate the remarkable diversity of the planet. Omar P. Jallo looks at this year's celebration.
The International Day of the Tropics highlights opportunities unique challenges faced by the nations lying between the tropics and celebrate the extraordinary diversity of tropical regions while highlighting unique opportunities faced by nations of the tropics. It provides an opportunity to take stock of progress across the tropics, to share tropical stories, expertise, knowledge, diversity and potential of the region. The day aims at promoting tropical regions on the planet and raise awareness about conservation strategies. This year's theme is the digital divide in the tropics. The tropics refers to the regions of the Earth that lies in the middle of the planet. They account for 36% of the Earth's landmass and includes the equator and parts of North and South America, Africa, Asia and Australia. This region is warm all year round. The temperature in the tropics ranges from 77 to 82 degrees Fahrenheit. The tropics get a lot of sun and only have two seasons, the wet season and the dry season. Some parts of the tropics, like the Amazon basin, get nearly 9 feet of rain per year. Other areas such as the Sahara Desert get only 2 to 10 centimeters of rain a year. This difference in rainfall affects which plants and animals live in the different parts of the tropics. The tropics are important because of the number of exports come from these regions. Also, about 40% of the world's population lives within the tropical zone. On this day, conservation organizations and concerned groups for the tropics hold informational seminars, workshops and presentations to highlight the major challenges, identify the developmental possibility in tropical regions, and ensure sustainable development goals are on track. The day was first celebrated in 2016 following the United Nations General Assembly's adoption of the State of the Tropics Report, which was introduced on June 29, 2014. The report, which was the outcome of the collaborative efforts of the top 12 tropical research institutions, suggested a very distinct point of view on the tropical regions. Tropical regions comprises 98% of the world mangrove forests and around 99% mangrove species. Since 1980, there has been a significant decrease in mangrove forests across the tropical regions. Biodiversity is maximum in the tropics, and its loss is also greater there than in the rest of the world. The flora and fauna are also on the verge of facing disappearance in these regions. This loss of biodiversity is partly attributed to human activities, such as destruction of forests and marine ecosystems, overexploitation by industrial fishing fleets, and commercial hunters. Because of these issues, many species of plants and animals in the tropics face the loss of their habitats. They are also vulnerable to becoming endangered. Humans living in tropics face many challenges as well. More people experience undernourishment in the tropics than anywhere else in the world. This is consistent with the high level of poverty in these regions. Around 54% of renewable water resources could be found in the tropics, but the threat lies in the fact that, despite such abundance, half of the population is deemed at risk of water scarcity. Reporting for QTV News, I am Omar P. Jallo.
The manager of the company constructing the Basse Bridge, the Basse Bridge Construction Company, and the CEO of the Sukhung Enterprise, a human resource contractor which employed some of those working on the bridge, have reacted to allegations made by 44 claimants who sued the company alleging non-payment of salaries due. Our URR correspondent Alhaji A.F. Jallo reports.
According to the reports in some newspapers and on social media, the 44 workers were drivers, welders, operators, and others who worked in different areas for the company. The 44 claimants said they were all employees of the construction company and were placed on monthly salary by the company. However, when COVID-19 came, the company asked them to stay at home. Refuting these allegations, the head of the Basse Bridge Construction Company and Sukhung Enterprise, the HR company with which the workers have signed employment contract, said some of the 44 laborers have no further engagement with them as the construction project is winding down.
Actually, the matter is unrelated to our company. Our company signed a labor subcontract with the Sukhung Enterprise, which is registered labor company in Gambia. And there is no employment relationship with the 44 workers. Sukhung company, according to the contract, and matched the appreciated numbers of qualified workers according to the process of the project. The dispute between the labor company and its employed workers was solved by Sukhung company itself.
Ming Wang, CEO of the facilities company, Shusung Enterprise, which contracted the workers, explained why the allegations were incorrect.
For the 44 workers once working in our company, including the 11 who proposed to leave due to the salary issue, and our company has since settled all their wages before their departure. As far as we are concerned, there is no breach of contract because we set all their wages before they are left. We will respond to the law issue as required and solve the matter through the law.
QTV then visited one of the workers, and one of them, Luntang Trawale, gave us their side of the story.
As I told you, I was the timekeeper by then. I will not tell you the lies. I am speaking between me and God. Truth is only one. Yes. I will not support the Chinese on behalf of my brothers. I will not support the brothers on behalf of the Chinese. I am there as an intermediate between the Chinese and the Gambians, blacks. So truth is truth. Yes. What we work for was paid. What we work for was paid.
Reporting for QTV News, I am Alaji A.F. Jallo.
Now, the Ministry of Finance and Economic Affairs on Thursday held its annual day-long budget consultative workshop as part of the key activities for the fiscal year 2022 budget formulation process. Amar P. Jallo reports.
The budget consultation is part of the preliminary steps in the budget formulation process to stimulate discussion on budget policy and reforms, which is in line with government's commitment to transparency and openness. The Ministry of Finance and Economic Affairs has been conducting this engagement annually to facilitate smooth budget preparation and execution. In his opening statement, the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Finance and Economic Affairs, Abdoulaye Jallo, said previous discussion had been informative and valuable in terms of improving their interaction with ministries, departments and agencies, adding that all stakeholders must work collectively for the interests of the public, as national development requires continuous consultation and collaboration.
As we look ahead, the economy is expected to marginally recover this year. However, the recovery will be contingent on strong performance from our key sectors, which is mainly agriculture, tourism, and also trade.
PS Jallo said the budget preparation for 2022 will be challenging given this is an election year. He urged all ministries, departments and agencies to prepare and submit their final budgets to the ministry by the 2nd of July 2021, as the appropriation bill will have to be tabled before Parliament much earlier than usual.
The 2020 budget will be anchored on the recovery of the economy in 2022, but within the auspices of strengthening our fiscal discipline and enhancing efficiency in the utilization of public resources. To this end, we expect to target our net domestic borrowing to be very close to 0% of GDP.
Jallo also reveals that the 2022 budget will be anchored on economic recovery, but within the boundaries of fiscal discipline and enhancing efficiency in the utilization of public resources.
From 2022, MDAs will be expected to develop public investment programs as part of the Sustainable Development Finance Policy of the Government of the Gambia. The purpose of the public investment program is to further strengthen public investment management by outlining priority programs and projects of the government for a given period.
Responding to concerns raised by various ministries, departments and agencies, the Director of Budget at the Ministry of Finance and Economic Affairs, by Madi Sise, highlighted some challenges and suggested ways to address them.
So we're here to listen to you today, have a better understanding of how best we can assist you, basically. But also, only to the best of our ability, because as I explained earlier, things are very, very difficult at the moment, with economic activity slowing down.
Organizers are hopeful that participants from the ministries, departments and agencies will be proactive in their participation during the consultation, as their input will ensure successful formulation and implementation of the budget. Reporting for QTV News, I am Omar P. Jallo.
The Journalism Students Association of the University of the Gambia, in collaboration with the Lateral Migration Project, a German-based organization, and Bati Askanwi, a civil rights organization of the Gambia, on Thursday hosted a lecture program on irregular migration. The event was held at the Law Faculty Auditorium at the University of the Gambia. Yahya Jao reports.
Economic turmoil has been a significant driver of immigration from the Gambia. In recent years, a significant number of the country's youthful population has left the country in search of greener pastures in Europe through irregular migration journeys commonly known locally as the Barkway. The event was organized to raise public awareness on irregular migration and promote new mechanisms to tackle the problem that has not only caused economic problems, but also claimed the lives of millions of people from around the world, including many Africans. Mokhtar Kamara, the project coordinator of Lateral Migration, said the Lateral Migration Project is an initiative of African diaspora in Germany that seeks to combat irregular migration through awareness-raising campaigns by targeting young people, particularly high school and university students in the Gambia, Senegal and Mauritania, and highlighted the importance of the event.
We need our young people too. We don't like that all our young people go to Europe to help to develop Europe. We have to develop our countries too. And we think through this event we organize here in Gambia with the student union, with the schools, with etc., with college, just we can reach more people.
In his welcoming remarks, Mahmoud Diouf, the president of the UTG Journalism Students Association, urged journalists and journalism students to take the lead in the fight against irregular migration through effective migration reporting, and went on to say,
migration has been a courageous expression of individuals' will to overcome adversity and to live a better life. Today, globalization, together with advances in communication and transportation, has greatly increased the number of people who have the desire and the capacity to move to other places.
Dr. Joy Alimazong, a visiting professor at the University of Applied Sciences in Bremen, who also delivered the lecture on the impact of irregular migration on the contribution of the youth on national development, shared his expectations.
I expect a certain level of consciousness about illegal migration. People without knowledge perish. If you don't have knowledge, you go the illegal way and you may perish.
Nana Gray Johnson, the Dean of the UTG School of Journalism, also had some words on the subject.
Government of the Gambia, must be an honest broker. Perhaps this is what is absent in the equation. Our governments are not being honest brokers.
Modou Lamin Diouf, the executive director of Bati Askanwi, which translates Voice of the People, explains why they partnered with the School of Journalism to conduct this event.
It's not about the number of people that you reach at a go, but then the quality of people you reach at any one point. So we thought it was only wise to use the journalism students of the university, because these are people who can now amplify the voices. They can now make it reach where probably we might not have.
Despite endless efforts by both local and international organizations to combat irregular migration, it appears that youths are not distancing themselves from embarking on these life-threatening journeys, and so it only requires the use of stringent measures to minimize its strength or alert people to the possible dangers. Reporting for QTV News, I am Yahya Jao.
And in connection to that story, Bati Askanwi is a civil rights organization, civic rights organization, not civil rights, as earlier mentioned. Our apologies. But before we end this news edition, now let's give you our top stories once more. As preparations intensify ahead of a major climate change conference later this year, Regional Ambassador for West Africa recently visited the Gambia to engage government's commitment on the country's nationally determined contributions. The Chief of Defense Staff of the Gambia Armed Forces on Monday resumed his tour of military installations and meetings with army troops and community leaders and local government officials. A splendid display of Gambia's rich cultural diversity has been used to raise awareness of and launch an environmental cleanup challenge. Today is the International Day of the Tropics, a UN day commemorated with the theme, The Digital Divide in the Tropics. That's all we have for you in this Bulletin of the News. Thank you very much for watching, but don't forget to join us at 10 for another bulletin.